Oh my goodness. Ah! Whoa, I'm falling over. Things are all out of whack. We don't even know what's going on. The undisclosed location's falling. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to WineShark Wednesdays. Being live and all, it's kind of weird where the first thing you do is bump your desk, drop a glass, and kind of start your show in an odd way. But welcome, everybody. Glad to see you guys here and joining us. Hope your week is going well. Wednesdays are always our day to kind of wind down, chill out, and talk about wine and wine topics. Had a moderately inspirational week and productivity wise, so that's always good. I've been working on the mechanical details of being able to run a contest for you folks. Specifically, I'm going to give away a free online tasting, a Zoom tasting. But I need to know how to do it so that I can get everybody in and do it all by the appropriate bells, whistles, legalities, and such for both Facebook, YouTube, and for Insta. So also working on kind of starting to use Instagram a little bit more, making a plan for that and integrating all three in together. One of my original projects, just as far as making things work, was much more along the look, pick a channel, maybe two, stick with that, kind of roll with it. I really think that third channel needs to be part of the deal. Facebook was already in as far as, the consumer base is going. And I like the two-way communication there is a lot easier than the other platforms. So it's going to stick around. But that being all said, there's some cool tools out there to integrate things together, help make plans, and basically make it not a lot of work to keep things informed all the way through. For instance, trying to grow the WineShark Facebook group and YouTube Facebook group, YouTube groups into one thing. We have a far fewer folks here on YouTube who are subscribers than we do on Facebook. And so it's one of those, hey, I want to grow and get everybody in the message. And heaven forbid when I post on my personal Facebook that a bunch of people that apparently don't know that I do this for a living. So guess what? I do this for a living now. So there's that. Anyway, fall planning is starting up. The rest of the August shows are live, so tickets for online events are all on sale for the rest of the month of August. And I'm starting to look into the September through holiday time frame and kind of figure out some of the things that have to fall in the right places. I'm very eager to do certain shows because they are particular styles of wines that I enjoy. For instance, Thanksgiving time is, one of my favorite holidays of the year because it's all about food and wine and awesome. So there's a classic example, but it means I need to hold some wine topics in reserve to go around that, which means we've got to fill in some other stuff. And, here in Texas, it's not like September isn't still summer. I don't care what you think. But you can't call it wines of summer in September because everybody desperately wants it to not be so damned hot. So we'll have to figure out some sort of weird cosmic middle ground between that. Anyway, looking towards doing some other video stuff as well. There's some kind of, again, I've been playing around with the idea just learning a skill, not to become anything of a videographer, but basically how to market your own business these days. And so with the tools I've got for this, of basically just cutting together a little kind of teaser video that I can use to help advertise the business to people that have never seen me before. Since, most of you, my lovely fans, have had the opportunity to at least meet me in person and or attend a physical show in one form or fashion, whether it's at Scarborough Renaissance Festival or a private tasting, etc. Or, some of you might just like to hang out with me and drink wine. Totally an option too. So anyway, today's topic, we are talking about hard seltzer and the wine world, the 800-pound gorilla in the room that is hard seltzer. And on the grocery store grab, we've got Slow Press Cabernet Sauvignon, a very shiny rose gold label that looked very fun on the shelf and actually had some reasonable information. Let's see whether they live up to their bottle's name, etc., before we dig into what it is that they are offering. But let's go ahead and jump into topic. In case you've been living under a rock, hard seltzer has been like a huge thing in the last few years. Specifically, just in 2019, the flavored malt beverage category, or FMB is in industry speak, has grown year over year as of June, almost 1,000% of its last year's sales. Something like $2.7 billion in sales and a 2.6% market share. To put those numbers in some perspective, or at least the last ones, spirits account for about 7% of sales, wine about 11%, beer is up there in that same range. So this growth from near nothing, or from the kind of the what I would call the undercurrent market, right? There's always been a fourth category that's kind of existed out there for all of us, right? There's spirits, there's beer, there's wine, and then there's that other. And it's always kind of been there. From my youth, it was wine coolers through the ages of my high school years. It was, it was in early college. It was the clear beers and Zimas and the early malt beverage categories that then they tried for a while to it kind of laid low. And then we started seeing, other twists on things like that. We talk about stuff like Smirnoff Ice kind of lasted for a while. A lot of things attempting to imitate the spirits world in the space, meaning the sub 7% ABV space, or sub 15% ABV space, depending on how you look at it. Basically, the beer wine world, where because there's a lot of places in the country where you can only sell beer and wine, you can't sell hard spirits. So therefore, a lot of the spirits marketing folks, why do you think it's called Smirnoff Ice? It's because Smirnoff wanted that brand recognition to carry into a market where they couldn't normally put a bottle of vodka. So that kind of undercurrent's always been there, right? It's always been kind of bubbling around. But why is this hard seltzer thing suddenly just blown up is one of the things that's making the industry kind of scratch its head. So the other question mark, of course, is where did this 2.6% market share come from? Who are they? The market share is always 100%. So it's a very much a net zero game. So who are the people that are drinking this? Are they newcomers into that market, or is it coming from is it coming at the loss of one of the other areas? Depending on who you ask, the beer market is suspected to be the prime suspect, but not the craft beer market as we think of it in the same way we think about the fine wine market. Think about fine wine and craft beer as a subset sector between wine overall, beer overall. This isn't really impacting the craft movement in any meaningful way, because what you're seeing is people that were inclined to already drink the lighter end of the spectrum of both of those categories are the ones that get in this. However, the format and ABV styles trend more towards what beer is like. In other words, it's a canned or small bottled product, which is not the normal format for wine. Therefore, a lot of the studies go anywhere between 27 to 55% of that market share came from beer. So anyway, why is that important? It isn't important unless you're, an industry person like me, but more importantly, just understanding the cool parts about where this kind of stuff comes from, what the trends are, and I mean, how to enjoy them. And also just about kind of what to me, it's kind of a, what's behind the undisclosed location kind of moment, because it tells you a little bit about the workings of big alcoholic beverage companies and how they kind of see and market to their consumers. So, I mean, again, as a sense of large scale, we bought more by volume. We got more hard seltzer last year than we did vodka, which was the traditional kind of largest single segment sector in any one of those categories. Now here in 2020, what you're starting to see is the real big businesses in the beer function world are starting to get involved. AB InBev, Miller Coors, and Constellation Brands, which owns beer, wine, and spirits, are really digging in with brand new brands that are piggybacking their existing brands. For instance, there's now Bud Light Seltzer, because that's not a confusing concept at all. What do you mean? It's supposed to taste like a lighter version of my already light beer? No, actually, it's a flavored malt beverage that just wants to use the label so that you recognize it and go, oh, I like Bud Light. I like that. So anyway, why are these products blowing up? is questioned next, right? It's like, okay, well, couple of things, or at least the way there's kind of two takes on that. I mean, well, three actually. I'm going to throw my own in for the benefit of there, which is kind of a hybrid of both. But one is from the what are they marketing them as, and what is the target demo? Two, what's the industry reason, and then three, what's the WineShark take on both of those? So to begin, when we talk about, let's talk about their marketing angle. You know, I apologize, by the way, hang on, let me put a pin. Sorry, I'm not demoing any of these for you. There's not particularly example things here. I'm not a huge fan of seltzers. I don't dislike them. My favorite malt beverage category, actually, I love the Cayman Jack's Cuban mojitos are a total awesome poolside sipper. So I'm not against these beverages in any way. Let me put that disclaimer out there. I will, however, make fun of the holy hell out of them because it is hilarious. But anyway, there's a whole concept of what these people are marketing to in the demo, right? And they are very much targeting the demographic of young, often female, and very much on the lifestyle kind of lifestyle spoken brands. They're targeted at what I would call fitness aware, fitness conscious, or body image aware, because they're all very much targeted as a low calorie alternative to beer, wine, or other spirits. Generally speaking, these things are very much in lower sweetness with a moderate amount of flavor, right? They're often compared to, alcoholic liqueur rather than, say, a full flavored counterpart. In other words, it's this refreshing concept is one of the interesting things that it aims at. That it's not something that's heavy and sticks on your palate. They're all very light, right? It's this, sit around and drink it, and it doesn't weigh down your palate, so to speak. That marketing and the wide degree of both flavor approachability, mild sweetness, and that whole thing, they've also gone with this whole kind of exotic palette, very much the place to be, summertime party, the summer of White Claw of 2019, and all the jokes that go with it are pretty hilarious. So to go up to that, there is a huge opportunity or a huge market for a lot of stuff that went around with poking fun at and the humor of the particular demographic that goes along with White Claw. I've actually linked a thing in by a comedian named I forgot his name right now. All of a sudden, it's Wallace. Anyway, he's just hilarious in the idea that drinking White Claw once and really kind of playing off the whole concept. Trevor Wallace, that's it. And Trevor Wallace basically talked about his whole. I drank White Claw once, and it's a whole satirical send up on the bro culture and party culture and things that they were aiming at. My personal favorite meme line is White Claw is just like drinking Jewel water. And there are too many great quotable lines from the video alone. That one was just one I've seen on the internet. But to say the least, they're attempting to make something sophisticated out of something that unfortunately doesn't necessarily come with that pedigree. Specifically, it is, no matter what they say of the natural flavors, quote unquote, that are used and to make White Claw or any of its other competitors, there's literally nothing natural about it, right? I mean, the malt, the sugar that are used to make it alcoholic are natural products. They're a processed flavor from A, B, or C. It's not like they're using real fruit or real fruit juices to do any of this stuff. It's very much a lab created thing. And therefore, it's a formula, not an art. And that's a big differentiator for me when it comes to the concept of the difference between this and every other category of spirits, right? Or every other category of alcoholic beverages. We talk about beer, wine, or spirits. All of them have a degree of craft. Now, some of them have an industrial level of it, but all of them require art and science. I suppose the art of mimicking a blood orange with 2 drops of A and 4 drops of B might be considered an art, but yeah, anyway. because of that, because this isn't attached to anything that you have to wait to grow, I'm fairly certain that we're not dealing with chemical shortages that of whatever flavor a tropical mango fruit bomb is, or we're not going to run out of limes anytime soon. So, or lime-like flavors. We can ask the people at Coca-Cola to borrow some of theirs and from their Lyman factory. But anyway, because of this, there's no supply chain, there's no waiting. You turn on it. This is perfectly the example of turn on the sweat machine and make more, right? A classic example of the market in function when it comes to the spirits world, for instance. I got to meet Jimmy Russell, the former master distiller for Austin Nichols Wild Turkey. And one of the things that he was lamenting was the popularity, the come up of rye during the early 2000s because of the craft cocktail movement. When craft cocktails became really popular again in the early 2000s, what you started to see was a rush on rye. And, bourbon, rye, and whiskeys tend to take anywhere from 5 to 10 to more years to make properly, right? I mean, most of your commercial grade whiskeys are sitting around the 3 to 5 year range at the minimum. So you can't just tell the factory, "Hey, print up some new copies." You've got a very long delay in the supply chain to the demand ability. Not so with seltzer, my friends. Unless we run out of clean drinking water, which it is 2020, let's just admit might be a possibility. Oh, crap. Sorry, dogs. I didn't mean to make the knocking noise. That was me. Anyway. Nope, they're on alert now. They're convinced that there's an invader. Anyway, so producing more seltzer is easy, which makes it very market reflexive. All you have to do is monitor stocks and down the supply chain, and life is grand. And from what I understand, it's cheap as hell to make. It's inexpensive because there's so many less human hands involved in the process. I mean, the simple matter of the actual growable parts, the access to, say, the sugar or malt malted grains is the only probable thing I could think of, and that you might be competing with some other industries. But let's be honest, that's a commodity level thing that's not nearly the same as looking at stuff like, say, oak for barrel aging, grapes in their particular growing pattern, hops in their particular growing patterns, or any of the other ingredients that make up the other categories. I just can't see us running out anytime soon. So it's a strange world. It's for all the stuff that it tries to do, by the way. I have no beef. I mean, like I said, this is one of those things where I would probably call it a guilty pleasure for somebody who likes to think of themselves as anybody who likes anything sort of fancy. If you are into the world of fine wine, craft beer, craft spirits, cocktails, you might look down your nose at folks that drink the basics. Baby, you basic. But let's be honest, a little guilty pleasure now and again is something that we all enjoy. And that's where I think these things squarely fit. This is that part where, even though I'm way out of their demo, you want to tell their marketers, I'm like, slow down. You're not going to convince anybody that you're lifestyling up via your skinny can of seltzer. But you know what? Madison Avenue has proven me wrong time and time again. That is that fact of those marketing techniques work. And they work to the tune of $2.7 billion a year. So grab yourself a seltzer machine from your last Christmas present that sat under the tree and then, got stuffed in a closet. Start making you some hard seltzer. Make that big money. Do it now. Anyway, let's talk, though, about how this affects the wine world. Why the hell am I sitting here talking about seltzer? Because, well, I want to talk about where the crossover is. This has an impact on the wine world, not because I'm thinking about it's stealing stealing from Peter to pay Paul, but it does have some options. Oh, hey, look, comments. We do have actual listeners. Although I can see like 4 of you are left. So let's see. Teach, is anyone else having a buffering issue for tonight's show? No, Dale's doing fine. Teach, these things are great at the beach, the pool, where glasses and not. Yes. So Reba, let's talk about why the format is awesome. It dovetails into the same things I talk about with canned and boxed wines. They are portable, right? There's great for no glass allowed. Mom says she's having buffering issues too. Well, boo. Screw you, internet. I promise I'm not running anything special here at the house, or, shouldn't be on our end. So, although I don't know, maybe your comments were from like 10 minutes ago and I'm just getting them. And it actually is a buffering issue. And we won't know until 10 minutes from now. And that's weird. Anyway, not to yeah, because we're losing guests for like fast. Everybody seems to be leaving and coming back. But anyway, maybe I'm just not that interesting, or they don't like seltzer. But to dovetail onto what Reba said, they're portable, they're convenient, and especially, again, when you're doing outdoor activities and you want things that are not going to weigh you down. They're low ABV. They're not big stickies on your palate. They go anywhere from ice cold to moderately warm and taste roughly the same, right? Unlike, say, to give the example of a briefly tried but unsuccessful category that's in a similar band, the alcoholic soda movement, right? The whole not your granddad's root beer. Didn't last because it had the same problems that regular root beer does. And that is, it doesn't taste very good when it's hot. It's got to be ice cold to taste right. These seltzers actually have a pretty decent band of, okay, fine, I'll just finish off the can. It's all good, right? So they definitely have their niche, and I love the way that they've capitalized upon it. Like I said, I mean, in that same way, although the bottles of my favorite malt beverage come in glass bottles, the mojitos I was talking about, I'd rather they came in cans for that exact same reason. They're not going to lose anything by me. But that's that marketing spin, right? It's all about who's the person, what is the perception of the person making the purchase? How are you convincing them by subtle clues that this product is right for them? For instance, why are the cans why don't you see White Claw in standard 12-ounce cans just like every other beer? Well, because the perception is if the can is skinnier and taller, so must be the beverage. No bullshit. That's the line, right? It is very much that visual impression that it looks more elegant. It looks less masculine, by the way, which for a long time, meaning all of the 3 months prior to summer of the White Claw, they were really, you had a lot of guys specifically hiding their White Claw drinking because it was perceived as a feminine thing, and especially in a demographic of hyper image awareness. So, it's odd as hell. Reba said, it's funny that this is tonight's topic. We bought Austin East Cider's version of seltzer to try this weekend. Oh, interesting. I'm a big fan of Austin East Ciders. They are one of my go-to when it comes to cidre. So I got more of a I've always enjoyed ciders as an offside, but when I went to France and in Normandy, it's all about ciders, and I totally became kind of addicted to the idea of the cool afternoon cider. So Austin East Ciders does some good stuff. We also have some amazing stuff up here in Dallas as well. A lot of great places to go. Local cideries, cider houses rule. Something about ruling in the cider house. One of those movies made sense. Some of them made money. I'm pretty sure one of them was also Dead Poet Society, just with a different thing on it. But whatever. Anything that happens up in the Northeast and in the autumn time looks the same. It's very romantic, but it all looks the same. Anyway, wine. Back to wine. Back to wine topics. The bad news is that the wine-based seltzers are on the move. So one of the articles I was reading industry-wise was very much about the concepts of the industry, and the seltzer world is evolving so quickly, right? Yes, Donna, I actually do know The Cider House Rules is by John Irving, and I have not read the book, but I have read. Anyway, go with me, Donna. Roll with my humor. Just this one time. Let me believe I'm funny for that long. Anyway, the seltzer world is evolving so quickly, it's really hard to keep up with what the hell's going on. But what you're seeing is, in the addition of the big brands coming in and taking their own brands and slapping them on, i.e. Bud Light Seltzer, you're also going to see the playbooks from every other part of the world come in as well. So Wine folks and wine owning companies or brands are going to use wine playbooks to target wine drinkers with seltzer alternatives, right? Same thing in the spirits world. You're seeing a lot of pre-made, what are they called? RTDs, ready to drink cocktails are coming around a lot. Again, generally speaking, not because of the love of the cocktail, but because the spirit that is its base wants your eyeball / market share. So it's going to be canned Jack and Coke, right? Which actually I think is already a thing. But anyway, you're going to see a lot more of that, right? And then not in the Smirnoff Ice category, right? We're not talking about a brand name on a malt beverage product. What you'll talk about is you're going to start seeing that cross line all the way up the spirit scale to fully ready, canned old fashions brought to you by, say, Four Roses. So don't quote me on that. That would be cool, but we'll see. So, but despite the fact that the seltzer is on the move, don't call it a comeback. We've been here for years. The concept of a spritzer is not at all fucking new. Okay, we've been doing this for decades with wine. I don't know why everybody acts like it's some wild revolution of White Claw. I'm like, what? You found sparkly water and La Croix at the same time? I don't get it. Literally, now hang on. I have to do a really total bad aside, and it was alcoholic still water. It was just flavored water with booze in it, which, frankly, that's like, I'm like, that's so lack of effort. I cannot even. I don't get it. Just, you have water at home, man. It comes out of your tap. Anyway, but spritzers, we've been doing it for decades. Spritzers are the perfect combination. We got it. We're so ahead of you here. Why would you make it out of all these fake products when you can take really cool wines or awesome wines? By the way, even the ones that you might think are way too heavy to drink for your hot summer afternoon. Yeah, I'm looking at you, Port. I'm looking at you, Touriga Nacional. I'm looking at you, big red wines. You take those things, you splash them in a bunch of, do like basically it's about 1 part wine to about usually 8 parts or so seltzer or soda. Throw a squeeze of lime on it, and bam, you've got this delightful cocktail that is perfect for summer drinking. Now, I admit it, I just added 2 steps from open can, put in body, but still, it's the quality level here. We go from science to art really quickly, and that spritzer concept, that needs to be a crap. I mean, right here, let's you and me start it right on this channel of that needs to be a thing. Why is this not still a thing? Right? Because there's a great way to approach it. I mean, I think it's because there's this perception that, from fine wine drinkers that you're somehow corrupting it. I'm like, well, dude, I'm not talking about adding freaking seltzer to your Lafite Rothschild. Slow down there. Pump the brakes. I'm talking about taking, your regular $20 port that you're not going to freaking drink anyway because you only drank 2 glasses one night and the bottle's just sitting there. Well, dude, grab some club soda and some limes and solve that problem, because that empty bottle's not going to drink itself, or a bottle's not going to get empty by itself. The open bottle's not going to drink itself. So yeah, I mean, there's lots of options in the wine world when it comes to just literally taking the sparkling concept to where its natural point already was. But let's go to the next thing. What if we're just looking to graduate from seltzers, if that's where we started our alcohol journey, into wine? We're curious about what and we're looking for wines with seltzer-like properties that have lighter fruit-driven taste, for instance, that are maybe lower in alcohol and not weigh on our palate so much. I would also posit that we would want more restrained acids here, where crisp is good, but sharp is bad. So when we talk about approachable wines in what I would call gateway wines for people who are just getting into wines, this is a great category that's the same crossover for people that enjoy seltzers or ciders or beers for that matter. Because this is that place where I'm like, okay, depending on where your palate is in your wine journey, this is probably where a lot of us start. Reba was down here in the comments saying that you get wine spritzers as a kid. Yeah, whenever the wine started the club soda in it, probably more soda, a little more wine for color. Exactly. And that's, again, it's that weird idea that it's somehow I don't know. I think it's just about a favor. Trends are trends. I mean, come on. Let's just admit that in the world of beverages, trends are very much part of how we consume them. So, I think everybody who's over the age of say 30 and has been drinking for any length of time can tell you what has come and gone, even in their short lifetimes. So, anyway, so wines that are great to start. I'm actually going to do a series of videos on this separate from tonight. This idea, when it came to me, I'm like, there's a lot to talk about here. There's a lot to unpack, and I think I'll do it as probably a 2-part, just wine for seltzer drinkers kind of concept, and then one totally satirical, I'm going to make fun of seltzer drinkers video, because I feel the need. But anyway, the wines that I'm talking about here that fall into this class are, I think, everybody who's been in any one of my classes has heard me either talk about and if not extol the virtues of. But let's cover a few here real quick before we do the grocery store grab. My number one gateway drug is Riesling. You want to get people involved in easy drinking wines. Riesling is the best tool, because it has the dial of sweetness level you need. It is the wine that is perfectly labeled and marketed in different levels of sweetness, and therefore you can get into that thing, that point at the level that the consumer is where you can meet them on their ground. There's a better way to put it, right? So it's also a perfect example. Also great. It's got light fruit-driven taste. It's generally speaking low alcohol because of the arrested fermentation processes, etc. 10 to 10% Riesling, not uncommon, right? Very, very easy to drink. From Italy, Soave. Soave, now we're upping the crispness level a little. We got a little bit more acidity, but generally speaking, it's a pretty mild white that's really just a quaffer level of drinking. Just really, really easy to drink. Doesn't need a lot of support on its own. Very light flavors, kind of lime zest, grapefruit kind of thing going on, and really, white flowers. Really, another great example of starters. From Portugal, Vinho Verde. Now, again, we're notching up a little bit here in the acidic range, right? That's Vinho Verde is kind of it's the highest level of the crisp wines that I would recommend. But again, it's got that little bit of sparkling action going on there too. So, Mark Midland, any opinion on white wine with ice cubes? Answer there being, I am more of a hard liner on temperature control than I am on watering down. I am 100% for. In fact, to say how I must be on board with this. I'm like, I'm okay with if you're at a restaurant where the restaurant doesn't know how to serve their wine and they give you room temperature red wine and you put a ice cube in it because it's not served at the right temperature. I'm down with that, because the difference between getting your temperature right and the tiny bit of water you're adding is insignificant. Same thing with your white wines. If you're at that thing where you're at that point where you're at a place where your wine is not staying cold, you're drinking out of a glass or plastic and you don't have an opportunity, throw a damn ice cube in that. My other answer is just to simply drink faster, because that's always an option. But yeah, ice cubes. We're not doing technical evaluation here. At this point, we're literally talking about drinking for pleasure. So if it brings pleasure to you, do it. It's not literally harming your wine. Now, I'm not going to say that you're going to do that when we're doing real evaluations. I'm not going to recommend that as a tableside practice, but I will absolutely recommend it if you're sitting out by the pool and you need to keep that wine from getting, to that point. Because remember, the warmer a wine presents, the more it presents its alcohol tones, which mute its fruit. It mutes its fruit qualities. It over amplifies its acidity. So really, what you're getting is, cooler wines mute those things, and there's a right point to it. It's just like it's like turning up a musical instrument where you start to get feedback. That's what heat does to wines, whether they're white or red. Right, when they're served above the right temperature. So, but yeah, drink faster. Damn right. So Vinho Verde, sparkly, fun, green, awesome, even though it's not actually green. Prosecco. In the bubbly category, Proseccos, Cavas, and Cremant de Bourgogne. Again, most of the sparkling wine world comes with dial yield when it comes to sweetness. So you can find some that aren't completely bone dry, which might throw off if your newer drinkers, newer to wine folks. So those examples, though, if you can find the sweeter styles on that style, I mean, I'm not saying go as far as to go to Moscato d'Asti, which is not on my list here, because again, that's so sweet. It's I think that actually goes against what seltzer folks are looking for, right? That's one of those examples. Same thing with Riesling. You don't want your Riesling too sweet. You want that crisp balance between sugar and acidity and fruit, and then you're hitting that middle Venn diagram there. That's what's going to get new wine drinkers into the wine game. Same thing with Prosecco. Same thing with Champagne. Same thing with Cava. You don't want this face-rippingly dry stuff. You want that mild degree of sweetness that helps overcome the acidity, and then they're getting this that beautiful texture from all that delightful bubbles, and they'll find it way more interesting than just seltzer bubbles, right? Which we experience all the time in carbonated beverages. Fake carbonation is not nearly the same as traditional method, for instance, or even Charmat method like Prosecco. Moving into the middle ground, rosé really is a spot that people need to pay more attention to. But again, stylistically, you've got to hit the right point. You don't want these super tart examples. You want the more mild examples. You want one that have a little bit more effort put into them. This is where, although it's up on the price scale, stuff like Chateau Miraval, which is an excellent, well-rounded rosé, as opposed to just a $7, grocery store level rosé, white Grenache that you're going to get there. Not that those things are bad. Again, the weird thing is there's this bell curve that goes from mass-produced wines. Actually, it's a reverse curve, because it's mass-produced wines that are not pretentious at all, but have a degree of sweetness to this. We're cheap, but trying to look fancy, and they're not putting a lot of effort into them, and they're very racy, very acidic, very dry, low sugar examples too. I think once you come back up here to a little well-produced, you're starting to see balance and harmony hit that point again. Obviously, everybody has their White Zinfandel terror stories from earlys in the 70s, but that's not a thing anymore. That's a 50-year-old idea. So let's not drig that up as an example. Speaking of 50-year-old ideas that are fun examples, and it was actually one also on VinePair while I was doing some research for this topic. Lambrusco, I think their article called it the OG seltzer. It's sparkly, it's red. Unfortunately, it's usually a little too sweet. It's a perfect example of a sweet red wine for people that are looking for such an object. But actually, there are examples, if you can find them. Pruno Nero, by the way, is a perfect example of a sparkling red dry wine. It's crisp, it's refreshing, it is not overly sweet, and it is a perfect seltzer killer if you're trying to get somebody in that to graduate from point A to point B. And then lastly, if in the red wine world, what I would call the most friendly of the light red class are the Gamets. The Gamets from Beaujolais region of France are, generally speaking, some of the lighter, fruitier, higher acid for reds, and therefore drink more like white wine style of reds. That's that graduation point from, okay, you've played around with some light whites, let's get you into some light reds. That's a great gateway drug there. So anyway, we'll talk probably a little bit more about those in the other videos. We're going to do some spritzer examples, some very specifics on how-tos and how to turn even the biggest, boldest buggers into amazing outdoor wines and all such cool stuff. But we're going to move into the grocery store grab, because that's our other thing that we do here on WineShark Wednesdays. So for those of you that are not familiar, the grocery store grab, the premise is to help get the best value per dollar for wines found at non-specialty and non-big box retailers, meaning we oftentimes don't have the luxury of having a specific wine store. Some people like to shop at their grocery store for convenience, and that grocery store may have a wide degree of wine available of both quality and quantity. So we like to put a label focus on the topic and really look at the wines that are out there showing us the best that they've got via their labeling process. It's also how we reward wines that actually tell us good information, aren't just looking at us to move us with marketing speak and lifestyle marketing. So today's Selezione is a combination of all of those things. It has a label that I went, ooh, look at that. That's very nice. This is called Slow Press Cabernet Sauvignon. It's got this nice little rose gold, Black Hills gold colored label. It's a California cab, And I was looking kind of in the big red category and kind of looking around. Interesting again about how I looked through a bunch of names of wineries that I know that are basically relying on that to get them to buy, for me to buy wine, right? Which is, they're not telling me a lot about what's in the bottle, and that's a damn crying shame, because there are some labels I would certainly bring to the show, but they wouldn't score very well for that factor. Now, we might do them just because we want to see what's in the bottle, but the funny part is, if you're a well-known wine producer of a certain tier, I expect your wine to be a certain level, right? It's one of those, you're a major brand for a major brand reason. What I'm usually aiming for at the grocery store is up-and-comer brands or otherwise popular brands that aren't considered in that upper hierarchy. So we're gonna talk here about this perfect example thereof. So these craft vintage wines, I'd never seen this label before, so I started taking a look. Again, they've got several of the hallmarks from their labeling team that I think they are using very modern packaging and eye catchers. Not only the metallic label, first off, they're using a stealth enclosure, so they're telling you, hey, this is a drink now, not a lay down cab. They've got this little sub label here, oftentimes used to mimic something handwritten and applied. In the spirits world, you'll often see these as bond stickers or things like that. They're often signed, numbered, blah, blah, blah. This is nothing of the sort, except for the fact that they actually do have some handwritten script on here that's printed script to make you think that somebody wrote on the bottle. Little marketing tricks to make it think that it's got this. It does have a little summary here: rich, smooth, dark. It's got these impression words that are already trying to catch your attention. Never rush a great wine. They're trying to give you a little bit of lifestyle kind of thing in there as well. But and it's even got the whole kind of they did a great deal of using this same space to put in the details that the FDA requires, right? So they've got 750 mils, 13.5% alcohol by volume, and a lot number, which I doubt will change, but I would love to see it if it does. So anyway, again, they're that weird mixed combo of marketing and practical, which I'm 2 thumbs up for. But here on the back of the label, we've got their logo again, and I'll usually just kind of read what's going on here. Their concept here is the slower the press, the better the wine. Now, I don't know that that's a thing from the viticultural knowledge that I've got. Their enological, the process of making wine is enography. So enographical. There we go. So anyway, enographical combination of that. I don't know that that's necessarily a thing. Pressing it slower does not necessarily equal better, but that's their premise, and we're going to let them stick to it. But here's what's cool, right? They're talking about, hey, their wines are a tribute to the true craft of winemaking. Our vintners know that great wines are worth waiting for, so they slowed down the winemaking process from start to finish. Again, I don't know that that's a good thing, but the slow press process releases the purest, most concentrated flavors and smooth finish. Okay, all of that was marketing. It's a lot of marketing statements. Here's their one final sentence that makes it worthwhile. Our Cabernet Sauvignon is aged in oak barrels, which delivers notes of dark fruits and blackberries that complement a robust and velvety tannins. Okay, so they've given us what I would call moderate descriptors. Not a lot of flavor words. If you don't know what tannins are, that's okay. They're telling you they're velvety, so that's kind of a descriptor, which is good. But overall, I'd give this, this is a kind of a comment. This is a B-, C+. We didn't get any references to food, so again, they're imagining you're just drinking this by itself. There's no substantiation, but we're not going to dispute their facts about whether they've got how slow pressing is supposed to make it better. I mean, we can talk about extended maceration, processes of press, cold fermentation, and a lot of the other things that go into making wine. The fact that you're pressing it really slow just, I think, means you're fondling your wine a bit too much. So there you go. Anyway, let's talk about so that's what's in the bottle. It's got information on, it basically is a California level cab, meaning there isn't any specific location of grape to this. So again, my gut will tell me from my wine knowledge about where it's from, but everybody on the layman terms will just know that this is Cabernet from California. So my gut says this is probably Paso Robles / Central Coast, maybe it's a little bit of Central Valley, Lodi area as well. Again, doesn't tell me on the label because they don't want me to know because it's not important. So Let's talk about flavor. We've known, so those are the words on the bottle, but let's talk about the tasting notes we do here. I don't do a full sommelier kind of grid level tasting. This is meant more targeted at laymen. So basically, we're going to answer 3 questions. Is it well executed? Is it on style? And is it worth the price tag? By the way, the price tag on this was $20 before the club price discount, meaning I bought it at my local Tom Thumb for $13. As I've said on the show before, that gap in pricing is something that you can often use to determine how much the bottom line price is much closer to what I would call the regular price. The MSRP there of $20 or even the club level price is really designed to do the 2 things. It's one, to get you into the idea that this wine is of a significantly discounted value because of where you're shopping. Look, we offer low prices. And number 2, to say, hey, if you join our club, you can then take advantage of our low pricing. All you have to do is give us your marketing information. So there you go. Anyway, let's get on to tasting here. Color-wise, great extraction. This is a very thick, dark wine. For the price point, that's not surprising. Again, we're going to see how it tastes on the palate here and find out whether there's anything else going on. But it's got good dark extraction, very dark garnet ruby color all the way out to the rim. Can't see through it at all. So you've got barely probably at the very edge of the meniscus. So again, a lot of extraction. To my eyes, it speaks of big, bold wine, right? It's going to tell me that there's a lot going on. On the nose, easy to find fruit, right? It is definitely on that fruit forward side. You've got a little bit of cocoa powder and vanilla. You can kind of smell. If you know what oak smells like, you can definitely tell that there's some new oak going on in there. But we got dark fruits like I'd say plum, maybe currant, like red dark currants, or maybe here we're going to use a fun one for you. For all the IKEA shoppers out there, lingonberries, right? But it's got that kind of jammier processed fruit flavor, not the fresh picked off the vine fruit. We're talking about, sitting in there being crushed up kind of thing. So moving that through. I would also go with there's not really any soil or maybe even tertiary flavors there. Maybe that's where I call that vanilla thing, but I still think that's coming in probably from the oak, not from fruit press. So not even from fermentation or post-fermentation flavors or aging flavors. Okay, it's a big boy. It is all fully grown up. Definitely, it's got great all-around mouthfeel. I like their tannin assessment. I think their tannins are well balanced. They're soft. They're balanced in with the fruit. It's got a good grip on your mouth, like a good Cabernet should, but it's carrying a lot of flavor. The flavor comes across as not any particular one fruit, but you do have that same blackberry, black plum, plum jam kind of thing going on there. Really nicely carried. The background of it, kind of the lingering and finish flavor here. It sticks around for a bit, but mostly where I'm feeling is the tannin sticking around. That 13% alcohol doesn't make it taste overly hot. Although, like I said, when it comes to it could probably be a few degrees cooler. It's even here at almost up to, I'd say it's about 70. It's still performing really well. I'm not getting overt alcohol to it. So. Yeah. Still, is it well executed? Yeah, this is a well-made little wine. I mean, there's no bones to pick. It's not sophisticated. It's not deep and complicated, but man, it is a nice full fruit bomb it's fully dry. And again, this is that weird part where mistaking the concepts of what fruit tastes like versus sweetness. This is one where you would taste those plush flavors, but it doesn't carry sweet with it at all, which is nice. It's just this nice solid fruit jam. Is it on style? For this California style, yeah, we're not trying to be anywhere in particular. 100% agree. This is a classic California cab at the price. Is it worth the price tag? Oh, I totally buy this again. This is nice. This is a nice job at $13. Noticing over here in the comments, Barbara's saying that they're from Livermore, which is just in the middle, it's right dead in the middle of the world of California. It's just east in the San Francisco Bay. But grapes, Paso Robles, but I figured it was a big heavy lifting, but and Monterey down south, and Lake County. Now, interesting, Lake County's up north, and is actually a cooler growing region from altitude perspective. Clear Lake is north and east of Napa, and is home to a lot of volcanic soil benches that have nice. They usually grow cooler climate grapes up there. But interesting note. I wonder if there's a blend. If they're doing a blend out of this. Because remember, in California, you can have up 75% one grape and call it that grape. So if this is 75% cab and up to 25% whatevers, I wonder if they're getting cooler fruit from Lake County, getting maybe some Merlot, some Carignan, some, I don't know, something else. For that robustness, I wouldn't be surprised to see something like Petit Verdot or even Cab Franc thrown in there. Although Cab Franc's a little bit rare, so it tends to be expensive. Same thing with Petit Verdot. You're not growing enough of it. But Merlot, wouldn't be surprised at all. Shiraz, wouldn't be surprised at all. We do have those Rhone Ranger fans out there in California, for the GSM blends. So not saying a ton. Excellent. But yeah, Slow Press. Good work. Good risk. I'm very pleased. And they're so go buy a bottle, judge for yourself, check it out, and be successful in your next grocery store choices. I think that's very, very cool. So where are we with time? Oh, we got about 10 minutes. Awesome. So Q&A time. I mean, although it's always Q&A, you can always make comments over on the side, and I usually try to respond quickly. But any questions, comments about things that have been going on / today's show / any other wine topic you had queries upon? Anybody? No. All right. Everybody's quiet, happy, moderately enjoying their happy hour. This is good. I have no complaints about any of that. I guess, I will enjoy that level on the silence part. But that's okay. That means you can just listen to me talk some more. So speaking of which, what things are coming up? And by the way, that doesn't mean Q&A is over. It means put them in the chat and I'll answer them when you get there. Coming soon, we're doing the Smoke Show on Friday. If there's anything that's fun and awesome, there is smoked meats and wine. We're going to do a smoked salmon and a smoked pork belly that we're going to serve with two very awesome wines, Vequiranas and a Crianza Tempranillo. Anyway, it's a lot of fun. I've provided recipes in the ticketing information. Although, if you don't want to cook, you can actually totally get the similar products from your local barbecue smokehouse, which you should be awesomely supporting in these desperate times. And you should be able to find hot smoked salmon at any reasonably gushy grocery store. So those would be an excellent opportunity to join us for a wine and food plus show. It's going to be a lot of fun. We've also got, what else? There's Pinot Grigio coming up. We're going to do Wine and Cheese Part 3 because, we do a cheese show every month because we're never going to run out of wine and cheese to do. At least I don't think so. And if to do is we'll start back at the beginning again and just do version 2.0 because we're not going to run out of cheese. We're just not. And then lastly, but not leastly, we have light white wines at the end of the month. So we're going to do some Albarino, some Vermentino, and I believe, what else did I choose? Oh, it's on there, and I can't remember right now. But there's a lot of wines rolling around in my head at the moment, so you'll forgive me. But, so the online shows are a lot of fun. They're fully interactive, and you don't just have to type anymore. You can chit-chat with me. Reba says she's also making a lemon and parsley couscous for Saturday. Excellent. I think we're going to plan this is also the first road show we're doing. I'm going over to my awesome buddy, understudy, and Teletubby. I got to come up with something that rhymes with those three things. To Matt's house. He's going to be doing the smoked pork belly for us, and he's going to be making up some barbecue sauce and some side accoutrement. It's also Hatch Chili Festival over at HEB for those of you that have those. HEB Central Market. I picked up some Hatch Monterey Jack cheese because yay. So again, chili and smoked flavors because they do that whole char thing. Very much aligned with what we're talking about. So perfect example of probably our most popular topic, which is all about how do wine and food work together. A deep and complicated pool of delightful answers and discovery. I should write that down. That was pretty good. But anyway, so later on, when you guys get when the video goes up, you guys want to make comments below. If you don't have any questions for the very moment and you'd like to have comments answered for the rest of the crowd and preserved for all posterity, you would do me a huge favor. Tell me about your experiences in that fourth category, the fourth estate of the malt beverage world, whether it's from the current seltzer trends to all the way back to the Bartles and James versus Seagram's wine cooler days, for those of you that have a long memory. Tell me where you were. Tell me about your Zima tragedies during college. It'd be all kinds of fun. I'd love to hear from you and to see what you guys think. If you guys like what we're doing, hit that like button and subscribe. If you really like what we're doing, share with a wine-loving friend. If you really, really like what we're doing, check us out over on Patreon. We've got exclusive content for Patreons only. We've got free discounts to online tastings and shows. We've got all kinds of cool stuff and basically the personal attention of yours truly. It's like having a sommelier that lives in your closet. Maybe not like that. That sounded creepier when I said it out loud. But it's like having your own sommelier, which is kind of cool. So, and you can say that. You can say, I've got a somm. I've got a guy. I mean, how cool is it when you get to say, I've got a guy. And I've got a guy for that. So it's a good thing. So, all right. Well, I will see you guys at our next tasting on Friday and hope to see you then. Until such time, it has been my pleasure to serve you guys. Thank you so much for joining me. I have been your wine shark. Cheers.